Tonight's topic, again, Parenting 102, I call it social and emotional skills. Before you stop viewing and say, are we going to use the terms that we're using all the time, SEL, that every school is talking about currently and everyone throws around, assuming everybody else even knows what it means? Let me make things a little bit easier for us, okay? So when I'm talking about, and let me make sure I get this thing right on my end, social and emotional skills, here's what I'm really talking about: a toolkit to navigate our feelings. That's what it really means. That's the gist of it. That's the core component of it. I'm not going to get into all of the research and the definitions and the different terminologies used, because what I'm trying to do is equip our parents in order for them to be able to equip their children with the tools needed to navigate our feelings. Why is this important? Why are you wondering, well, why is this even a topic, or why should I even worry about it? Let me do my infomercial right now. Have you ever suffered from seeing your children throw a temper tantrum? Maybe seeing them having difficulties controlling their emotions, crying hysterically, laughing hysterically, just unable to control their emotions. Maybe even difficulty paying attention. Maybe even having a rough time focusing, listening to you. Maybe even experiencing FOMO, which is very, very popular right now, a fear of missing out. A lot of these things come about because of our social emotional skills. So, what we're trying to help out with tonight and equip you with is a tool set, if I will, to help them navigate their feelings, help them create better relationships, help them, and not just them, maybe ourselves, communicate better, help improve problem solving. These things seem like they're very simple and easy, but sometimes they're not. And we want to make sure that while talking about these things, I give you some simple steps, some simple techniques that you can use at home, because sometimes we like to overcomplicate things and show what the research says about SEL in a poll of 1,500 individuals, none of which are from my community. So I don't even know if I can or can't relate to them. So we want to make sure that what we're providing you with is something that's beneficial, is useful, and easily implemented. So let me see if I can move to my next slide. So how can we help? First, let's be aware of how we talk about others. It's easy for us to criticize that other parent, that other child, because they're not listening, because they don't know how to play well with another child, because they get in trouble in school, because they were suspended. And sometimes we don't watch how we're talking about these things in front of our own children. I'll give you, for instance, and I'm going to be a little direct and a little harsh. So brace yourself, because I'm going to say some things that most people don't like saying, but I like being honest and realistic. Little Bobby gets in trouble in school, okay? Often. And now he's to the point where he's expelled. You pick up your child from school and you let your parent know, or your child lets you know what happened. Oh, well, you know what happened? His parents just got divorced. You know how his dad was and all these problems that he had. You know what happened. And, that's why he turned out that way. Who are you to know what your future holds for you and your relationship, one? And two, what am I teaching that child when I say they're behaving that way solely because of something that happened at home? What if that child then goes through it in the future? And unfortunately, I don't wish this upon anybody, obviously, you go through a divorce or a split up. Are we giving the green light then to be bad, to get in trouble, to get expelled? Because that's something that you said before was the reason why these actions were taking place. And it's easier to judge someone else, and especially when we don't even know all of the content, all of the circumstances, and what actually happened. Instead, here's what I would like for you to do. Ask your child, why do you think this is happening? Why do you think little Bobby is behaving this way? What have you done to try to reach out, to support, to comprehend, just to be there? Because it's really easy for us to just put people to a side when something is happening. And you know as well as I know, post-COVID, there is so much happening. Suicide rates have increased. You can see students don't even want to be in school. Attending school is a challenge. Attrition is a challenge. Drug and alcohol usage has increased. So be aware because we don't know what's happening. Even homelessness, we don't know what's happening. And when we're saying things to our children and making them think that it's okay to communicate in this fashion and judge other people and criticize other people and telling them you know why it happened when maybe you don't know is something that we need to be aware of. So be aware about how you talk about others, how we talk to our own children. I'm going to use some great examples as the good Hispanic that I am. There was a point in my life where I thought I had donkey ears because I was called a burro, meaning a donkey, so much by my own family. And we say things sometimes because we think they're cute. Oh, look at the flabs over their pants. They're so fat and chunky. It's so cute. Nobody's really excited about hearing that. Nobody is excited about keeping a nickname from when they were 5, which translates in English to fatso, and that's the nickname. We have to be aware about how we talk to our children because when we're talking about their social and emotional skills, our children aren't going to speak up very often when you hurt their feelings because you said something derogatory or mean. Our children are not going to tell you, especially at the weekend barbecue, when you say something and all of your friends laugh, and the child has to laugh because they don't want to cry in front of everybody else, but they might leave. They might get angry. They might make a face. And then what we tend to do sometimes is like, oh, suck it up. I'm just kidding. Maybe they don't. And that is part of the challenge. I'm not asking you to wear these white gloves and be super, super uber sensitive and precautious in every single word. But I am telling you, you need to be able to communicate better and know what you're saying. You know as well as I know, for one negative, derogatory thing that we hear, especially from our own parents, it takes at least 8 to 10 positive things to try to balance it out. And I'm going to challenge you if you're listening. Write down a few of the negative things that you may have said, kiddingly or seriously. Now, right next to it, write down all the positive things you have said, kiddingly or seriously as well. Sometimes we don't realize that negative list, it was real funny and it's pretty long. That positive list, somehow I just keep on saying good job all the time. And that's my positive list. And it's not just about saying why, because it's been proven in our students at school when we recognize and appreciate something of them that they did, but in detail. Not great job, you got an A. Hey, Ernesto, I really appreciated how you stuck with that problem. It took you a little bit. I know you probably got anxious because everybody else turned in their assignment. You were one of the latter ones, but you stuck with it. You gave it your all. And I think your grade reflects it. That's good. It's good effort. That's a good thing that you're learning to stay focused. And we want to make sure that we do that. Look, I'm going to give you a simple example, and we tend to do this. As parents, we can predict into the future. That's how amazing we are. Look, if you don't clean your room right now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be a slob the rest of your life. You're going to live a horrible life. You're not even going to get a girlfriend. How are you supposed to get married, kid? By the way, the kid's like 9, thinking everybody has cooties. I'm not even thinking about marriage. Like, what are you talking about? And these are things that we do that, unfortunately for us, come from our school of parenting, our own parents, our grandparents. Those are the people that taught us how to do this. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'm fairly certain the vast majority of us listening, watching right now, there was a point in your life where you said something or did something and you immediately had to say the following. I just turned into my mom. I sound just like my father right now. Why? That's the schooling that we got. That's where we learned how to communicate certain things. And it doesn't mean it's good or bad. For some of us, we may not have had a dad in our lives, and you may have become a better dad because of it, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. But know that that's a lot of our schooling. That's where we get a lot of the things. You know, you wonder sometimes why we're screaming half the time. And then and it's happening to me right now. I I have to be very honest and transparent because I'm a family engagement expert and I talk about this all the time, does not make me dad number one in the world and does not mean that I do everything right at home. Anybody that's telling you that they do, good for them. If they can sleep at night, I'm cool too. I'm not that person. I'm not. I've caught myself saying things to my own child. Stop screaming. You're not supposed to scream. It's not okay to scream. As I'm screaming to explain that it's not okay to scream. We have to reflect on how we talk to our children. And again, if it's face to face, in person, not via text, not via an email, not via DM, because my emotions can translate that to whatever I want it to be at that time. How we talk to our children face to face makes a big difference. Next one is sharing our failures. I know for a lot of you, are like, whoa, this got a little serious real quick. Yes. How am I supposed to expect my own child to be able to come to me to talk about a failure that they had when they've never heard me fail at anything? They've never heard me express how I felt because I didn't get the job, because I didn't get the raise, because I was bullied as an adult, because I felt out of place, because I was discriminated against. These are conversations that, as adults, a lot of the times we like to avoid because we don't want our children to have to suffer, to have to hear those harsh words. But if we don't teach them how to communicate this, how to deal with this, how you dealt with it, how you expressed, how you felt, what emotions did you feel? That's part of the challenge. We have to teach through our actions and not just our words. Teaching via our words is simple. Anybody can do that. Via our actions, that's a lot more time consuming. So share a failure, but go into detail. And don't necessarily just go into, I remember when I was 10 and I failed that. That's good. It's a good start. But talk about real life. Failure to get a car you wanted, failure to get that job, failure to, I don't know what, but explain how it made you feel, how you reacted, what you did. And notice when you're explaining this failure, if you're blaming everybody else or you're taking ownership as to why this happened. This is something that we need to be aware of because if we're the type of individual like, yeah, I didn't get that job, but I know why because Bob's friend over there, he's this and that. Well, you know what? I didn't get this raise, but it's because this person. Don't be surprised when your own children are always blaming everybody else for what happens to them. Oh, it was the teacher. Oh, it was the principal. Oh, it was the weather. It was anything else. But do be surprised when they start sounding like you. You know what? I didn't get this job this time, but here's what I feel I could have done better and how I need to take ownership about that. Now you're teaching your own children how to do the same. You're not worried about everybody else. We can't control them. I have to worry about me, what I can do, what I can't do, and how I can improve. So make sure that you're sharing a failure so that they hear that. I don't really need to tell you about sharing your successes because I'm fairly certain you do often. And if you don't, every now and then when something happens, you throw it in there in the argument. Well, yeah, well, I won this award the other day. It's going to happen. That one's an automatic. So share our failures. The last one is have difficult conversations. Now, this may seem simple, but it really isn't. Let me make the room uncomfortable real quick. Have difficult conversations about sex, drugs, and alcohol, things that are happening in your community, crime, racism, discrimination. These things are happening. And I'm going to tell you because I come from a family that had the conversation about all these things, and it sounded a little something like this. Everything okay over there? Yep. Okay. Be careful then. That meant everything: drugs, alcohol, relationships, everything and anything. That was the full conversation. Those conversations were never had in my household. And one of the reasons they were never had in my parents' household. That doesn't mean that we can't change and have these difficult conversations. If you both, meaning you as the parent and your child, can sit down and get uncomfortable with a conversation, guess what else you're teaching them? To come back to you to have another difficult conversation about something that maybe you didn't want to talk about or you didn't want to hear. But because you've had those difficult conversations, now they may have learned how to approach it. Now they may have learned that it's okay. Now, because we've shared a failure, it's okay to share that I failed at something. And it may even disappoint you, but I want to talk to you about it and let you know how it made me feel. You see, the other part of it, if we don't do this, is as follows. I'm not going to tell mom and dad because this is exactly what's going to happen. And in their brains, they've played it out too. When I say this, and they're going to try to take away my cell phone, and I'm going to be grounded, and I'm going to be told I'm the worst child. And then I'm also going to be told, well, my brother's the awesome one and I'm the loser. Like these are things that they play out in their head. And until we can start changing that for them to feel and think, it's going to be uncomfortable, but I think I want to talk to my dad about this. I want to get his perspective. I want to let my mom know how this made me feel. I want to let my mom know that I feel pressured because this is what's happening right now with children my age. We don't have those difficult conversations. And I can tell you this, and it embarrasses me while it makes me feel great about myself and my work. I can come into a lot of your kids' schools and give a speech for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, make them laugh, maybe sometimes even make them cry. By the time I'm done, they're ready to confess something to me. Hey, can I talk to you about something? Yeah, sure. What's going on? And it's something deep, something harsh, something difficult they're going through. And I often ask just for my own polling, if you will, but also to find out why they're telling me. Have you shared this with anybody else? No. Have you thought about sharing it with your parents? Oh, heck no. That's their immediate answer. That's the last person I'm sharing it with. That's not what we want. That's not helping them build those social and emotional skills that we need them to build in order to be able to express themselves, control their emotions, feel safe, have that self esteem to communicate. So, having those difficult conversations is going to help. And if the chat feature is working, I'd like to test it. If you are tuning in, bless you for tuning in, one. Secondly, I apologize for the shine, but that's just inevitable. That's going to happen, okay? I'd like for you to put in the chat some of the topics that you would consider being a difficult conversation to have with your child, because it's a long list. I guarantee you that it's a long list. It's not a short one, and it's going to vary culturally, what you've been through, family composition, how you were raised. All of these things impact what is considered a difficult conversation for you versus another family. It can vary. So let's test the chat and see if we can put in there some of the difficult conversations that you feel exist right now. Okay. As we're talking about those difficult conversations, drugs, yes, for sure. I want to give you a few resources on top of the ones that the ideas that I just shared. To me, it's always important to share some tools to implement. So there's an app that I used called How We Feel. I'm actually going to go through it as I can hopefully show you right here. It's called How We Feel. That is literally the name of the app. One of the reasons this is one of my favorite apps to use with youth, and especially when it comes to SEL, social emotional learning, it teaches me how to expand my own vocabulary to express my emotion. So, for example, once you open up the app, the first thing that it asks you is there's four quadrants, and it asks you high energy unpleasant is one, high energy pleasant is two, low energy unpleasant is three, low energy pleasant is four. I have to say where I'm at the current time. So right now I feel high energy pleasant. It's giving me about 20 options and words to state which word best fits me. Here's the beautiful part about it. If I say awe, to me, awe literally for the longest just meant awe. That's all it meant. Awe, and it gives me the definition immediately. Feeling like you are in the presence of something vast. The first time I read that, I was like, oh, I was way off with awe. That's not what I thought awe meant. Successful, enthusiastic. So let me give you another one. If I say I am feeling um, confident, you think you know that, but here, feeling sure of yourself. But if I say I'm feeling elated, I'm like, I'm not sure I know what that word means. Guess what? It tells you right away, very joyful, proud, or enthusiastic. Now I can click on that and then I can add a journal entry. I can add what I'm doing at the time. I can add who I'm with, and I can add where I'm at, and then I complete my check-in. Imagine, just throwing this out there, if you as a family use this app and once a month you just sat down and talked about some of the feelings that you felt that month. You would even be surprised at the words that they're using, the terminology, the vocabulary. It's incredible to hear some of our children use words to define their emotions when it's not happy, sad, angry, because that kind of is what we tend to use mostly to describe how we feel. So again, the app is how we feel. I have it set up so that 3 times a day it checks in with me and it asks me, how are we feeling? And I have to go through the process. And here's the beautiful thing. Not only do I say the emotion that I'm feeling, I also get to see where I'm at, what I was doing. And sometimes there is a pattern. Sometimes I feel really happy when I'm at home and I feel sad when I'm alone. Not a coincidence, but now I get to see it and now I get to track it and now I get to better understand it. So, How We Feel app is a great resource. And again, if nothing else, it's going to help us all increase our vocabulary to better express a wide array of emotions that we may feel. Okay. The next one is journaling. I don't know if anybody here has journaled, but I can tell you right now, I don't care how happy, how angry you are, you hit pen to paper, it's your therapy. And I always tell students and adults, the cheapest form of therapy I can give you is a piece of paper and a pen. Sometimes I give 3 minutes and just put some music on. As soon as they're done writing, I just ask, how do you feel? Oof, I feel like a load just came off of my shoulders. I feel so good right now. I feel relaxed. I feel better. But it also helps us create self-awareness in the journaling. It's a form of safe expression. If I'm angry, I might write faster or harder, but it's okay. I'm just expressing my emotion. I just want to make sure that you're letting it out. If I'm happy, I want to record it. And here's the beautiful thing. I can come back to visit it and maybe relive that moment. The beautiful thing about journaling that Sean Aker with the Happiness Advantage shares often is it allows you to focus differently around your day. So Sean Aker, if you haven't seen the Happiness Advantage TED presentation or Before Happiness, there's the Happiness Advantage and Before Happiness Advantage, they're books. He taught and did research at Harvard with students focusing on their social skills, their communication skills, their emotions. And he realized that the ones that excelled were the ones that were talking to other students, getting out of their dorms, interacting, socializing. The ones that struggled a little bit more were the ones that were focusing on getting an A, being the best student, and not leaving their dorms and just studying, just reading. Well, one of the tips that he gives is journaling by focusing on three positives every day. By focusing on three positives every day, it changes the way you look at life, everything that's happening to you. I don't need you to focus on the negatives because you can open up social media, something's going to be negative. You can read the news, something's going to be negative. You can watch the news, something's going to be negative. Or, and I hate to say it because I'm very blunt, you can go to work, somebody's going to be negative. It's going to happen. Those things are there. But if I'm asking you to focus on three positives, and they don't need to be massive, it could be something as simple as, you know what, that young man held the door open for that lady. You know what, this young lady helped carry something or mowed their lawn. That's a positive. It doesn't need to be just that it happened to you. It's just three positives that you see. By doing so, I'm changing your focus on what you're looking for every day, because you need to journal at the end of the day or the beginning of your day, three positives. And it's going to change your vibe, it's going to change your energy, and it's going to change your focus. So journaling is a great tool. The next one is a 5-minute check-in. Now, when I say this, sometimes parents get a little bit uncomfortable. I need you to try to dedicate 5 minutes to each one of your children. So those of you that are like, well, I got 6, that's like 30 minutes. I know. But I have to tell you something. If you're not focusing those 5 minutes on your child, then I can tell you a few things that are social media, their friends, predators, gang members, people that you don't want focusing time and energy on them. And they're good at getting it. There's a reason we're addicted to this scrolling thing. They're good at getting your attention. But I need you to spend 5 minutes with no distractions just to check in. Now, here's the bigger challenge. In those 5 minutes, you're to speak a maximum of 2 of them. Ideally, I would like for you to speak 1 of those 5 minutes, because those 5 minutes are going to seem like an eternity the first few times you do it. Because you're going to start off saying this. So tell me about yourself. Tell me what's going on in life. Nothing, I'm cool, done. Is that 5 minutes? No. So by practicing this on a regular basis, guess what else you're doing? You're getting better acquainted with your own child. You're creating a safe space for them to communicate with you anything that's happening. You're allowing them to expand their vocabulary and say things that they're feeling, that they're experiencing, that they're living. But in those 5-minute check-ins, it is not the time to lecture. It is not the time to tell them, see, I told you if you studied more, we wouldn't be here right now. No, none of that, because we're real good at that. Sometimes we just can't help ourselves. In those 5 minutes, you're to listen as much as you can, celebrate anything that you can, and ensure that by the time those 5 minutes are over, your child always feels heard and supported. Because if I feel like I'm being heard and supported, guess what? I'm going to go back for more. I'm going to go back to my corner that I know is always there for me. If I feel like you're actually listening to me, because there's such a thing now, and I made a video about this recently called technoference. That's when you're allowing technology to interfere with your communication with your own children. I'm taking a deep breath because I'm guilty. It happens in our house. No, yeah, just give me 1 second. I just gotta get this one text from work. It's really important. Here's the thing. Is that email or text really important every single day after you leave work? If so, then I don't know, you're running some high-end business that's making millions. Not, then maybe we need to focus time and energy on our children and put this on do not disturb and put it to a side. Because now, just by the simple fact that you put that to a side and you said, talk to me. Wow, like you're really giving me your undivided attention? I thought you were busy. I am busy, but you deserve my time and my attention. and I want to make sure that I'm present. Presence doesn't necessarily mean present. You can be present, your presence can be there, but you're not present, focused, listening, and making sure that your child feels supported and heard. Okay. Now, why work on improving all this? Because I want you to all have healthier relationships. I want what you want. I own children. I want them to have healthy relationships. I want them to be able to express to their significant others, I don't feel comfortable when this happens. I don't like this. I do like this. I'm trying to teach them how to express themselves, because the better they are at that, the healthier their relationship can be. The easier it will be for them to speak up when they say to a professor at their college, to a teacher in their school, I feel a little offended by the comment that was just made, but let me express why. If we need to talk about it later, we can. But they'll have the self-esteem and the courage to be able to do that, and not to do what many of us do. As soon as we leave the class, as soon as we leave the workspace, we talk smack about that person, that coworker, but we never told the person that we needed to tell. If we can teach them how to communicate, how to control their anger, their frustration, how to express their emotions, then they'll be able to express how they feel. And ultimately, it'll allow them to prepare to excel in life. That's what we want. Don't be judgmental of the student that tries to pick a fight with their teacher just to get kicked out of the room to go to the office, and think that's a problem child and they don't want to learn. We're conditioning them to do that sometimes. We're teaching them, get in trouble so that I can then send you somewhere else, and so that I can then get you out of the class, because ideally that's what they're wanting. I see that there's a question. Let me make sure that I address it real quick. Asking if this will be available posted in Spanish as well. Oh, that is a great question. I don't know that it'll be posted, maybe with subtitles en español, pero no lo voy a dar en español esta vez. I'm not doing it in Spanish this time. But for future reference, it's good to know. Okay. So let me get back to why work on this. I have I have little ones and I have big ones. I'm talking about my children. I have babies and I have college students. I know we can talk about that in a whole other session later. But trying to teach my babies that when you don't get the toy that you want, the best reaction isn't biting, scratching, kicking, and screaming, takes time. It's not going to happen the first time you tell them. There's a reason we have to repeat things, but more importantly, show things to our little ones, even with our bigger ones. I know that you may have had this conversation too. Haven't we talked about this? How many times do I need to tell you? Well, apparently 4,324 isn't enough, right? But guess what? If I feel supported, if I feel heard, maybe they'll tell you. Maybe they'll share with you why they did that, why they thought that was a good decision, why they thought that this was going to be a good move for them education wise, career wise. These are things that we're trying to do to help them prepare themselves to better communicate. Goes back to that toolkit that I'm talking to you about. If we're not creating the space and the time, then they're not going to talk to us. And the longer we wait, the harder it's going to be to make that happen. When you can have your child sit down, just listen to you, just talk to you, and focus on you, then the better the outcomes will be. I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to get off the soapbox real quick, but I've just seen it so much. I'm currently vacationing in Tennessee, and I cannot go out for a meal with my family without seeing the entire table of children on a tablet or a phone, and the parents enjoying it, because guess what? You're not interrupting me. You're not talking to me. This is peaceful for me. I also hate to burst their bubble. They're going to pay the price for it later, because they're not just avoiding conversation with them during the meal, they're going to avoid conversation with them, period. Difficult conversations, conversations that are going to make them upset, they're not going to do that. So please make sure that you're providing the time, the energy, the attention. I'm going to leave you with one last tool to do so. See this little pen right here? I call it the talking pen. It's very, very simple. Here's what you're going to do. Let's say during that 5 minutes, your child gets the talking pen first. Your child then begins to express whatever it is that you want. And if you want to make it easy the first times around, just ask them to share something that made them happy. Didn't have to be recent, can be from a long time ago, whenever. Just share something that made them happy. The child, while holding the pen, is the only person allowed to talk. For some of you parents, you are going to get uncomfortable. Your child's going to be talking and be like, just give me the pen. I need to talk. Like, stop. Come on. I need to lecture you. I need to tell you why you failed. I need to correct you right now. This is why we struggle so much, because we can't listen. The child talks for as long as they want until they're done. And when they're done, they then give you the pen. You are not allowed to say what they did wrong. You're not allowed to correct the problem. The only thing you are allowed to do to continue is to recap, to check for comprehension. Because sometimes we don't hear things right because in our minds, we're thinking of a solution. We're thinking what they did wrong. We're thinking how to fix it. And we're not even listening anymore. What we need to do is recap what we just heard and then give the pen back to ensure that child has to say, yes, that's it. Well, no, you missed this part. And then you're allowed to share. You'll be amazed at what a little pen can do. And you'll also be amazed when it might not be your 5 minutes. And your child walks into the room and says, Mom, Dad, I need to talk. And all they're going to have is a pen. And you're going to think, whoa, they brought the pen. This must be serious. Must be a conversation. But guess what? A little pen can give you a cue to let you know you need my attention. You need my support. You need me to listen to you. And the more we can do that at home, the lesser they have to look for something like that outside of our home. So don't be focused on the letters, the SEL terminology. Just focus on trying to give them the toolkit that they need to be able to better communicate, control their emotions, but more importantly for us as parents, hear them, listen to them, and support them. I want to try to keep this shorter because I know you have things to do. One of those things might be to walk up to your child right now and be like, hey, this ball dude to use this pen real quick. Sit down. Let's test this out. Good. I want you to practice it. But I do want to make you aware that next month, you are stuck with me again, people. I'm sorry, but I will be back again next month. And I'll allow Shannon to confirm, but if I'm not mistaken, our topic will be how to better communicate with our teens. And I think we're off to a good start with some of the tools that we gave you here. But what I would like to ask of you is if you're listening, if you're tuning in the comments, tell us something that you took away that is beneficial. But also if there's something that we're missing so we can try to address it later, because ultimately, one of the things that we need to do better is check in with the people that we're trying to service and not just assume this is what they need. This is how we're going to fix their problems. This is how they're going to get better. Sometimes we need to hear from you. So please feel free to share in the chat something that you took away that was beneficial, but also something else that you would like to hear addressed or spoken about. I am going to leave this slide up, my socials, so you can just scan it, QR code. Feel free to share with us on Cool Speak anything that was beneficial that you learned and you took away. And for any professionals that are tuning in, every month we'll be doing in our Cool Speak Facebook Family Engagement Hub monthly sessions for free, just chatting about some tips on how to improve family engagement. And that's in particular for our educators. So Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Ernesto Mejia. I am your humble servant, and I look forward to hearing from you, hopefully, and talking to you again next month.